Salve mates, I hope everything is covered in Tuscan sunshine at your end. Imagine you live as a Roman citizen in Italy during the crisis of the 3rd century. The first era where the crisis destabilized all levels of society. Not in the sense that everyone suddenly became equal, the rich still had land, gold and protection, but in that sense that instability reached everyone. And it isn't barbaric raids, emperors dying like flies, or marching armies that's your everyday issue. It's the economy, namely inflation. The Roman government lacks precious metals, so they debase currency. They add fewer precious metals, namely silver, into the coins. What does it mean for you as a Roman citizen? That means that the best time to take a loan is now. You borrow money today and you repay it later with worse money. Coins are being debased constantly, losing silver and gaining copper. So what you owe in nominal terms stays the same, but what you actually give back is worth less. Inflation works therefore in your favor. Lenders, of course, are not completely stupid idiots and will try to protect themselves by demanding repayment in better coins or even in goods. But imperial authority is on your side. It is increasingly pushing the idea that money must be accepted at face value. Not because it's true, but because the system depends on it. So yes, this is probably the best time to be in debt. Just be careful what you're handing over. If you rub the coin too much and the silver coating disappears in front of the lender, you may suddenly find yourself in a different negotiation. You need to spend the ugly one and keep the good one. Unfortunately, this is what every Roman citizen is going to do, so eventually you will find out that all coins in the circulation are ugly, debased ones. Because why would anyone spend the nice ones? The emperors themselves set this process in motion. Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, you might know him under his nickname as Caracalla, introduced the silver Antoninianus and officially made it worth 2 silver denarii. That is not just strange, it is fundamental bizarre. The moment you look at the metal, the denarius still contained much more silver, while the Antoninianus never really matched its supposed value. So you're standing there holding a coin that clearly contains less silver than even 1 denarius, but you are being told that it is worth of 2 of them. It is a system where a coin with a silver purity of 50% can be worth of 2 coins of silver purity up to 90. Not 1, 2. You do not need scales, you do not need theory, you do not need economics. You can see it, you can feel it. The coin is lighter, duller and weaker. And yet the state insists that this smaller, poorer, visibly inferior object has a double value of something better. And everyone knows it's a nonsense. The buyer knows it, the seller knows it, the soldier being paid knows it. But the system forces everyone to act as if it were true, because refusing to accept it would mean refusing to participate in the economy at all. And then, just when you think this cannot get any more irrational, the original denarius, which had been in circulation for the last 500 years itself, starts to collapse. Denarius also gets debased, reduced, stripped of its silver until the original comparison no longer makes any sense. But don't worry, the government is going to decrease the silver purity of all coins eventually, so the problem solves itself in the most bizarre way possible. The silver currency slowly turns into bronze coinage while it still pretends to be silver. And the bronze itself gets debased with lead. By the 270, or as you as a Roman citizen would say during the emperorship of Aurelian, bronze coins become too expensive to manufacture. So instead of fixing the system eliminates the honest coins and replaces them with cheaper, more deceptive ones. In Egypt, for example, greatly debased billion tetradrachms had driven out all local bronze coins, so a silver coin that has barely any silver at all manages to replace actual bronze coinage. But the monetary system of the empire has existed for centuries, so there are still good coins in circulation. Right? Well, not really. The system still exists, the names still exist, but the good coins behave as if they don't, because the moment you have two coins of the same value, you will use the bad one for paying and you will keep the good one, and so will everyone else. So the only coins that actually circulate are the ones nobody wants, while the coins that still have real value are quietly disappearing from everyday life. You will hide it under the floor, inside a wall, bury it in a jar in your garden, somewhere only you know, and you will never ever use it, because using it would be irrational. Good coins do not disappear because the state removes them, they disappear because everyone who understands them refuses to spend them. This also means you need to become competent at recognizing coins. Older coins are often better. They tend to have clearer details and more consistent weight. If you don't follow politics and therefore you aren't familiar with the older emperors, you can recognize them through portraits with laurel wreaths, rather than the radiate crowns the current emperors have. Newer coins often look cruder and more mass-produced, which reflects their declining metal content. None of this is perfectly reliable, but it is enough to give you an advantage over someone who doesn't pay attention. You might think, hey, how about gold? Do they debase gold? And the answer is, no, they don't, or at least not as much as silver and bronze. The gold standard is largely ineffective, and rich people do not face the same problem as you do. But don't worry about it, you will probably never see a golden coin in your life, unless you are in the top richest 1%. Your whole life will revolve around silver, copper, brass and bronze coins. The silver denarius is your label that sets the bar for all currencies. But it is extremely difficult to translate this into real prices, because your one golden ores was on paper worth 42 silver denarii during the emperorship of Marcus Julius Philippus. But the number could go into hundreds depending on the metal purity of the coins involved, and since everything is connected to metal purity, all prices and conversion rates become meaningless if you have a system flooded with a wide range of coins. Unless you are rich, the safest option is barter. You might sit on your ass and hope the state will solve your problem for you, but the truth is, the system will never be repaired for you. There are billions of coins across the entire empire, only the bad ones are being used, and it is logistically impossible to retrieve them. The repair carried out by the future emperor Constantine the Great applies only to the gold standard, where his newly introduced solidus proves the problem for the state, interstate transactions, and the rich. Silver and proper bronze cease to exist as the main symbols of the trust in the empire. Emperor Diocletian tried to solve this crisis with edicts forcing vendors to accept all currencies and a price edict, but both measures ignore economic reality. If a coin is clearly worth less, no law can make people trust it. Vendors will either refuse your payment in bad coins or quietly withdraw their goods and sell them only to customers who can pay in better money, typically silver or goods. This creates shortages in official markets, effectively creating a black market. So the edict works as an indication of what prices should be on paper, but not of how economy actually functioned. So, how do you see yourself in that era? Paying in coins or in goods? Let me know in the comments. Stay strong.